for what may lie ahead. Energy development, mostly from fossil fuels, but we welcome other sources as well, has helped reduce climate-related disaster deaths by fueling heating and air conditioning, electricity for hospitals, powers irrigation systems that alleviate drought, makes for more resilient shelter, and fuels our storm warning systems. We know this in Florida for a fact because we use that every day. Today, it is the political left in places like California who slow our progress by, for example, failing to prepare for droughts and wildfires. On day one, I'm going to order relevant federal agencies to establish forest management and water retention plans to limit wildfires and to limit droughts. These are man-induced disasters because of bad policy. We will reverse those policies and we will get it right. So the American energy sector fuels our way of life. Obviously, we see transportation, we know daily electricity, but you also have the oil and gas sector that is essential to producing everything from fertilizer to pharmaceuticals, even to bulletproof vests. Reducing our domestic energy supply does not reduce our energy needs. It just shifts our energy consumption to more expensive, less reliable, and less clean foreign sources of energy. We're going to unleash our energy sector. We're going to use our full federal and executive authority as president to simplify, expedite, and expand permitting for energy development, refining, pipelines, infrastructure, and exports. We will greenlight oil and gas drilling, extraction, and transportation. Green in our administration is going to mean go. I will demand faster approvals than any president in history. If bureaucrats are slowing down projects, then those bureaucrats are going to lose their job. It's about time we had some accountability. Hardworking Americans are going to have great jobs by rebuilding this nation's energy infrastructure. We'll also work with Congress to prevent abusive litigation by groups that slow down energy and infrastructure projects for years, sometimes even for decades. We're going to prevent tax dollars from flowing to these groups and require plaintiffs to post bond or pay compensation for project delays based on spurious litigation. We'll reduce time and duplication in permitting and ensure coastal states like New York no longer have veto power over energy projects in Middle America. We're also going to take the shackles off nuclear energy. It's cheap, it's clean, and these days it's safe. But because of the federal government, this industry has been sitting idle for decades. If you believe in reducing emissions, then you should want us to have expanded ability to do safe nuclear. Now, together, these policies are going to fuel a manufacturing renaissance in the United States. It will create a lot of jobs. It will reduce inflation. It will reduce gas prices for Americans. It will help revitalize communities. It will strengthen our economic security. And most importantly, will improve the standard of living for the American people. Things will not just be made in America again. Things will be powered in America again. Now, the security of our energy supply and power grid is also a matter of our national security. Fuel shortages and blackouts cause death, and they cause chaos. It is unacceptable to have electricity shortages or grid failures in America in the 21st century. Now, after 50 years of subsidies, solar and wind energy still provide only about 6% of U.S. energy. Since large-scale electricity storage is, at current time, cost prohibitive, they require backup from reliable sources like natural gas, coal, nuclear, and hydro. I will instruct my administration to prioritize the most reliable energy at the cheapest cost. We will work with states to defend our grid against blackouts, cyber attacks, EMP attacks, and natural disasters. Lastly, I'll greenlight oil, gas, uranium, and critical mineral mining and development on federal lands, and issue an emergency order to establish a domestic, friend-sourced and refined critical mineral strategic reserve to immediately reduce our reliance on China. And really, if you're going to try to force, as Biden is, these car makers to do more and more electric vehicles, you should be supportive of wanting to mine these important minerals here in the United States. We cannot rely on the CCP for things any longer. Look, I know there's a lot of pessimism out there. Seems like there's a lot of things that have gone wrong with our nation over these last many years. But I'm optimistic because as a nation, we're blessed with everything we need. We have the people, we have the natural resources, and we have the Constitution and the ideals on which we were founded. The only question is whether we will have the will to get it done. We need to have the will to reject the ruling class's agenda, and we need to make Washington work for the American people once again. So we will choose Midland over Moscow. We'll choose the Marcellus over the mullahs, and we'll choose the Bakken over Beijing. And so we will also choose critical mineral manufacturing in places like Stillwater, Oklahoma, over some random province in China. Our self-imposed handcuffs on oil, gas, and critical mineral extraction will be removed. The days of rolling blackouts and unreliable grids will be finished. To every American outraged by rising gas prices under Biden, and they are rising, and I think nationally it's coming close to $4 a gallon. Our target goal is 2025. We want that gas at $2 a gallon. We certainly will move in that direction if we implement all these policies, and that is exactly what we're going to try to do. We will reignite American energy dominance, save the American automobile, and assure American energy security. I'm going to fight for the people of this country. I'm going to fight for your family, for your future, and for our collective way of life as Americans. And I'm never going to back down from the fight. We will take back control of our destiny. We'll ensure that our future is as proud, independent, and as free as the past. We have it within our power to give America a new birth of freedom, a new birth of opportunity, and a new era of prosperity. Our energy dominance is one of the keys to unlocking that future for the American people. As president, you have my word. We will get the job done, and I will not let you down. Thank you all, and God bless you for being here. All right. Anyone have any questions? Yes, sir. So the issue of that is the climate clearly has changed. You can judge that, I think, objectively. I think the question is what policy posture are we going to take from that? And I think the policy posture that I've outlined here is best for our economy, it's best for our national security, it's best for the pocketbooks of the American people, but it also is the most practical way to reduce global emissions. If we just have natural gas exported to these developing countries, they are going to burn less fossil fuels or have less emissions as a result of that. So I think this is the ticket that we need to do. I can tell you in Florida, our emissions reduced not because of mandates. And yes, we do solar, market-based solar. We've got a lot of sunshine in Florida, of course, and that's a part of it. But the main part of it was the natural gas that is much more clean burning than some of the coal plants. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to recognize that. Yeah, but that was, understand what that was, though. There's no conflict in that. We got money from the Volkswagen pollution settlement. So all the states got money for that. You can only do it, use the money certain ways. So it was use it or lose it. So basically, you could do EV infrastructure, charging stations, school buses. Honestly, the electric buses are very expensive. I would have never used Florida tax dollars for that. But it was either use it or lose it. So you had ways under that settlement that you could apportion it. So that's why we did it for that. But there's also no conflict into saying that if people want to buy those vehicles, by all means, they can buy the vehicles, and they now have more infrastructure in Florida to do it. But mandating it and shoehorning everybody in there, that's not everything I've ever supported. Well, that's true, though. I mean, I think the reality is you have some people that if they don't have easy ways to charge on the interstate or on the Florida Turnpike are going to be less likely to do it. So I think that was just a description of the reality. It was going to encourage more people to do it because they would have a pathway to do it. But it wasn't us subsidizing that. We got that money from the Volkswagen settlement. We applied it on the infrastructure. I think it was the right thing to do because if we didn't do that, we would have lost it. So it's good. I would also say this, though. People can do what they want clearly in Florida on this issue, but with the saltwater intrusion and some of these storms, when it does get into those EVs, it has caused some problems with fires and whatnot, and that's something that you don't necessarily have with the internal combustion engine. Because our state, so the question is about offshore. Florida has a constitutional amendment to not have oil and gas exploration offshore. Part of it was in response to the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. Part of it is just a recognition that we're such a tourism-based coastline that even though the risk is small, the people didn't want to do. So that's in the state constitution. And I think the view in Florida is definitely more mixed on that than it would be in like Louisiana or Texas. But that doesn't mean that other states, shouldn't do it. It's really up to them what they want to do. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, I would do that. I think that the functions that were done prior to the late 70s, you need to do the nuclear functions. We would still do those core functions, but I think everything else, it hasn't made us better off energy, and now it really is working against a lot of our key energy opportunities. So I think it's been a bureaucracy that hasn't produced for the American people, and if Congress would be willing to do that, we would make that happen. Yes. Well, in a major instance like that, I mean, obviously those are things we have to deal with, and those are problematic. I mean, we deal with hurricanes in Florida, we deal with fires too in Florida. But what I would say is, when Joe Biden says that he's more worried, like in 10 years, with the climate than a nuclear war, I mean, I'm sorry, that's just not true. We don't want nuclear war. Trust me, that is not going to be a good thing. That devastation would be incalculable. And so I think that it would be better if people, who were concerned were a little more realistic and based in I cited some of these predictions that have happened where they said by the year 2000, all this stuff. And so we don't want to get in a situation where we're trying to ratchet up fear on people like what happened in COVID and like with this. What we will do, I think what I pointed out here is the more abundant and affordable our energy is, the more resilient we're going to be in the face of these natural disasters. I can tell you in Florida, if we didn't have reliable energy, responding to the hurricanes would be so much more difficult. You would absolutely have way more loss of life in these things. And so from that perspective, it's really done. But I don't think it's healthy for leaders to be telling young kids not to have children because of global warming. I think that that's a mistake. I think that that's trying to stoke fear and panic. And it is, there are people that are really concerned, and that is a real fear that's actually been out there. But I don't think that that's been appropriate to try to stoke that. You have to adapt. You have to deal with what comes, but don't politicize it. There are things that have happened throughout all of our history. These hurricanes, and we can go back. I mean, we've had massive hurricanes 90, 100 years ago, the likes of which people would be really surprised about. And so that's just what the facts say on that. Well, look, I've gotten to know a lot more about the industry, and I've gotten to know a lot of the folks, and I'm really impressed that this is one of the industrial jewels of America. And what is done here is vitally important, not just for our country, but really for countries around the world. So my hat's off to everybody in the industry. I know that we need to make sure that we get going on a better footing, but this industry is going to thrive. I mean, we're going to have folks that are going to have good jobs for many, many years, many, many decades as a result of what's going on here. And look, not just here, you know, you've got the Marcellus. The amount of gas that they can get from the Marcellus, the U.S., we would never have to worry about energy really ever again. If you look at what they've been able to identify, they could export all around the world. We could really choke Russia. We could choke these other countries, and we could be not only energy dominant, but increase our national security vis-a-vis some of the hostile nations out there. That's within our power. Yes, sir. I don't know. I think that's a good question. I was surprised to see that, to be honest with you. Yes, sir. Oh, so yeah, I mean, the Biden administration, what they've tried to do with WOTUS, I mean, before Sackett, they're basically saying if there's a puddle on your property, that's ripe for federal jurisdiction. I mean, give me a break. That is totally unacceptable. That's way outside what the statute actually says. It's certainly outside the intent of the statute, and it's outside the constitutional authority of the federal government to be doing that. They're going to try to do more and try to comply with the envelope. We're pushing it back for sure. And yeah, I mean, it affects, I think, Florida like anyone. Like, it affects our farmers who, you know, when they have a puddle, then all of a sudden you could have someone from the EPA show up to their farm. The people that own the land, they're the ones that are the best conservationists. It's their land. They want the land to do well. They don't want the land to be bad. Yes, sir. So we've done the calculations. We think we can get close, you know, but I definitely think where it's going 4 and up, I think we can definitely get under 3 and towards 2. And the reality is we're going to have a very favorable environment for this, and I think it's going to benefit consumers in a big way. But what we're doing today, announcing, one of the main reasons we're doing it is because the American people need relief at the pump. These guys could deliver that if they had the framework in place to deliver that relief. So there is help on the way, not just at the pump, but how energy affects all the things that we buy and affects inflation more broadly. And, you know, oil's over $90 a barrel, as was mentioned. There's a lot of people now saying maybe it'll end up being $100, $110 by the end of the year. I mean, gas prices, you know, that's going to cause gas prices to go up. There's no question about that. We're going to go in a different direction here, and it's going to make a difference for people, and that's what we want. We want families to be able to succeed in this country again. It used to be rare when you'd find somebody that would come up to you who was gainfully employed, working hard, raising a family, and they were saying something about not affording groceries. Now that's a common thing that you hear, that families are having to make choices between gas, groceries. They can't afford a new home. They can't afford a new car, even though they're working hard and doing everything right. If we can't succeed as a country for those families, then we're just not going to be worth very much going forward. So that's going to be my focus. We want relief for families, and we're going to do everything we can to deliver it. Thanks, everybody. God bless. All right.